Hi and welcome to Conversations with Robyn. On today's program, we're going to be introducing you to a unique approach to stop smoking. And with us we have Natalie Clays. Natalie, welcome.
Hi Robyn, and thank you very much for inviting me onto the show today.
You're absolutely welcome. And before we find out what this unique approach is, do you mind if we have a little discussion about your smoking days?
Yes, like most smokers, I started at the school behind the bike sheds at school. I think I was 15 or 16 years old, and you know, it was that peer pressure, that sort of thing you do as a teenager. You think it looks cool and grown up and whatever, and you try your experimental cigarette. But then 20 years later, I found out I was still doing it, which wasn't really the plan when I first started.
And how many a day was the maximum you were smoking at that stage?
The maximum, well, back as a teenager, it was just, you know, now and then and occasional, and with, you know, spending my dinner money, my lunch money on it. But throughout my smoking career, I probably peaked at about 3 packets a day.
Okay, so 3 packets a day. How many per packet then?
UK packets, 20 in a packet.
So you're smoking 60 cigarettes a day?
At one stage in my life, yes.
You know, the fascinating thing I find when I hear somebody who smokes that much a day, I go, okay, 10 minutes a cigarette, 60 by 10 minutes, 600 minutes, that's like 10 hours.
It's crazy, isn't it? I know, I spent my whole life either smoking or thinking about smoking or not smoking and wishing I could have a cigarette, and it just completely takes over your life. Okay,
so at what age did you, like how long ago did you stop smoking?
It will be 4 years in next month, actually.
Okay, and before we go into the unique way that you stopped, had you tried other methods?
Oh, what hadn't I tried? I tried absolutely, I tried everything. I mean, like most smokers, I tried everything that was pushed onto me through advertising and, you know, so I tried gum, I tried patches, numerous occasions. I had a plastic cigarette, I had needles stuck in my ear and feet, I had tablets, I had hypnotherapy on numerous occasions, and whatever else was available, I had it.
Okay, what's the time frame of you endeavouring to give up smoking from when it actually you stopped?
You mean how long did I spend trying?
Yeah.
Oh, crikey. Probably spent 10 years of my life trying to not smoke, trying to stop.
Wow.
And failing miserably every single time. It was just so unbearable that it wasn't worth the pain. So you just go straight back to the cigarettes.
Wow. Okay. So in finding out a little bit of what your journey is, can we also find out when you left school what careers you were in before the current one that you're now very much your life's work?
Yeah, okay. Well, after leaving school and university, I pretty much fell into a career of supermarket retailing. So I was a supermarket buyer, I was in buying and marketing. It was a fantastic job. I worked for a UK company called Asda. Used to travel the world visiting farmers in various fantastic locations, Brazil, Costa Rica,
wow,
Belize, places like that. So it was an absolutely fantastic job, and I loved it to bits. Was very passionate about it. And that eventually brought me over here to Australia. I worked on both the supply side in the fruit and veg industry, and also on the buying side. Yeah, so it was a significant career. It was something that I enjoyed very much. Certainly wasn't changing the world or changing people's lives, but I enjoyed it a lot and had a sort of fairly successful career path.
Now let's talk a little bit about your journey, which led to what you're doing now. Now, before we find that next step, I'd just like to make it very clear: the program is never usually about, I guess, promoting or marketing a product per se. However, I have heard about this method of stopping smoking over the years. In some of the previous programs I've mentioned that part of what I do is as a trainer, and it was in a training room a couple of years ago that one of the clients was talking about how they stopped smoking. And then a year or so down the track I heard the same thing, and it was about a book they had read. And then more and more I've started hearing about this, and apparently the success rate is about 90%, and there's a money-back guarantee. So that's why I felt that in introducing this particular subject and Natalie onto the program, it was absolutely in line with what the program's about. So if you'd now like to share about what that next step was in stopping smoking.
A friend of mine actually had used the method and quit smoking, and I couldn't believe that this person who I'd known as a, you know, always had a fag hanging out her mouth, suddenly didn't smoke, and she'd been to this Alan Carr clinic that she raved about. This was back in London, but I was living here in Sydney at the time, and so I looked into it and found there was a clinic in Melbourne. This would be back in 2003.
Okay.
2003. And I heard about the clinic in Melbourne, so I decided to find out what it was all about. And I felt like I'd tried absolutely everything else, and was very sceptical because they made some pretty big claims. You know, they said that you'd find it easy, instant, no drugs, no gimmicks, no patches, no lozenges, no gum, and they said no willpower, no terrible cravings. I'm like, yeah, come on, who are you trying to kid? But I tried to be fairly open-minded, and I went along to Melbourne.
Can I just ask, were you desperate at this stage to...
Yeah, I was over it. I got to the point where I detested it, but it was like something I hated doing, but I had to do it. But then I felt like I loved it as well. Oh, real sort of love-hate relationship with the packet, you know, with the packet of cigarettes. I always sort of felt it was almost like I couldn't enjoy my life without them. Mm-hmm. Couldn't visualise going on holiday without cigarettes, or enjoying a night out without a packet of cigarettes, or having a drink without a smoke. You sort of felt like it was something that you knew you had to stop because there's so much pressure on you from society and all the, you know, the terrible adverts and the health risks that we all know about. Smokers know all that. I mean, they're not stupid, but you still feel compelled to keep on doing it and feel that life won't be quite the same without them. That was how I felt about it.
Okay.
So I was very cynical about this half a day, I think 5 hours in Melbourne, but prepared to give it a go and you know, see what all the fuss was about. And went along. As I said, I was fairly open-minded. And when I left that day, I didn't have any big wow moment. I left and was like, okay, well, okay, let's see what happens. And the brilliant thing is, nothing happened. I just didn't smoke. Nothing happened. I had no desire to smoke. It was like I'd never been a smoker. So it's almost like you're waiting for this thing to happen, but there's nothing to happen. You just don't smoke. And I just found it quite beyond belief, to be honest, because having tried everything so many times and been so miserable so many times, all of a sudden, I just didn't smoke anymore.
And how long ago was this?
4 years next month, that will be.
And has there been a desire?
Robyn, I can absolutely honestly say, in fact, quite the opposite, to be truthful. No desire whatsoever. And when I see smokers now, I feel so sorry for them. There's no desire. I actually think, thank goodness that is not me anymore. Thank goodness that's not a part of my life anymore. Thank goodness I'm free. No desire at all.
Okay, so then what led you to now what you do?
I think it was a couple of months after I'd been to the Melbourne clinic, and as I said, I truly felt as if I'd never been a smoker in my life, and I just couldn't believe that it could be so simple. And I thought, this is just ridiculous. People need to know about this. Why is no one doing this in Sydney? This has to come to Sydney. And I think, you know, my brain started whirring away, and I thought, well, why not me? Why not me to do it? And so I got in touch with the organisation. They're actually originally, Alan Carr's originally from the UK, so I got in touch with the company, and
in one way, the rest is history.
The rest is history, and probably the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Okay, we'll take a break and we'll come back and find out more about this unique approach. Stay with us.